Hi, this is Jay reporting with TNJ World News. Here with the headlines. The Paris Peace Conference, which began January 18th, has come to a close. The conference took place in Versailles and lasted over a year. The purpose of this conference was to establish terms of peace after World War I. In the fall of 1918, World War I had not officially ended, but the fighting had stopped. The different countries had agreed to a series of armistice, or temporary agreements. Let's go to Tessa in Versailles for an exclusive interview.
Okay. Hello, Prime Minister. Tell us a little bit about the conference.
Well, delegates from 32 countries met in January, but the conference was dominated by the Big Three, which consisted of me, George Clements of France, and Woodrow Wilson of the U.S.
And how did you all seem to agree, seeing as you guys have so much power?
Negotiations were difficult. Each of us wanted such different things that by March 1919, it looked as if the conference was going to break up. But I like to think I saved the conference.
Please, elaborate.
Well, on the 25th of March, I issued the Fontainebleau Memorandum and persuaded one of the other three, Clements, to agree to the League of Nations and a more lenient peace treaty.
Thank you for your time, Prime Minister. Back to you, Jay.
Thanks, Tessa. Going into the conference, Lloyd George discussed his desire for a just peace that would be tough enough to please electors who wanted to make Germany pay, but would also leave Germany strong enough to trade. He also discussed his desire for land for Britain's empire and to safeguard Britain's naval supremacy. Tessa also got interviews with the others from the Big Three, which we will not be showing. However, here are the details. George Clements' aims going into the conference included revenge and to punish Germany, no League of Nations, an independent Rhineland, huge reparations, and to disband the German army so that Germany would never be strong enough to attack France again. Wilson's goals included ending war by creating a League of Nations based on his 14 points to ensure Germany was not destroyed, and to blame Germany for the war because he hated the guilt cause. We have just been informed that the Treaty of Versailles was in fact put in place at the Paris Peace Conference. The treaty brings great disappointment to American liberals whose hope had soared at the thought of peace based on President Wilson's 14 points. We have a neutral Frenchman on hold in Versailles to discuss the treaty.
How do you feel about this treaty?
We greet this treaty with great joy. The people of Europe want lasting peace, and we would also like to make Germany pay for the damage done.
We know that the Germans had expected that the peace treaty would be based on President Wilson's 14 points. Tell us how that relates to the peace treaty.
Well, the peace treaty is based on President Wilson's 14 points. The 6 key principles of the 14 points were setting up a League of Nations, disarmament, self-determination for the people of Europe, freedom for colonies, freedom of the seas and free trade.
The Treaty of Versailles ended the state of war between Germany and the Allied powers. It took 6 months to conclude this treaty. Thank you, sir, for your time. The League of Nations, a new proposition by Woodrow Wilson, is essentially splitting our nations into 2 separate parts. Not very many people understand the idea of the League of Nations as a whole, and very few people understand its implications. Many senators favor the League of Nations, but a total of 37 Republicans have just recently signed a manifesto created by Henry Cabot Lodge, a Foreign Relations Committee chairman, which states his opposing views towards the League of Nations. Wilson refuses to come to an agreement despite the Republican Senate majority. Wilson believes he can count on Democratic senators, but he needs to win over many Republicans in order to obtain the 2/3 majority necessary for the ratification of the League. It's been difficult for Wilson to obtain this 2/3 majority from the Republicans due to the 3 segments in which they have been separated. There are the dozen irreconcilables, led by William E. Borah, who are extremely opposed to the League of Nations, along with another dozen mild reservationists who are in favor of the League but hope to alter it in minor political ways. In the last section, the strong reservationists, who are willing to accept the idea of the League only if American sovereignty is to be protected. Lodge believes the League could be utilized if only certain modifications were made to it. He has recently attempted to make these changes and unite the 3 Republican factions. Woodrow Wilson refuses to accept the treaty with the Lodge reservations and modifications. We don't know where this is headed yet, but we'll speak soon to inform you. Breaking news. 2 days ago, on September 25th, Woodrow Wilson suffered from a severe stroke. This has caused the League of Nations to become leaderless, while Lodge has continued to attempt to use his modifications of the League. After all the work and effort put into the League, the public's ideas have begun to change. As a loss of interest in the League has become more and more apparent, our nation finds that Wilson, on his deathbed, urges the Democrats to vote for rejection of the League due to Lodge's new control over it.
Henry Cabot Lodge has destroyed the League of Nations with his absurd modifications. Do not vote in favor of this treaty. I can personally assure you that it will only lead to more trouble for the United States. I beg of you, Democrats, to reject the League of Nations for the sake of our great country. Thank you.
The treaty has officially been rejected.
The Paris Peace Conference has come to a close after a year of discussion between 32 delegates relating to how to peacefully end World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, after months of discussion, has been rejected after Woodrow Wilson was announced to be on his deathbed.
The Senate rejects the League of Nations. Many believe the League could be utilized if only certain modifications were made to it.
Thanks for watching TNJ World News. I'm Jay.
And I'm Tessa.
Have a good night.
Cheers to the new peace in the country.